We are about to embark on an immersive journey through the corridors of our minds. Stand by as we prepare for departure.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to the Productivity with Peace of Mind podcast adventure. Our journey will begin in just a moment. Inhale deeply and exhale. Our voyage takes us on a captivating tour, diving deep into the intricate layers of our thoughts and imagination. Brace yourselves for the complexities of our evolution. For a safe and enjoyable journey, stay seated, secure your helmet and protective goggles, and keep hands, feet, and legs inside while the ride is moving. Now relax and enjoy.
What if I told you loneliness is an opportunity, not a disadvantage? That it allows us to learn more about ourselves and how to have more meaningful connections with others. I have to say, loneliness has been something I've been very intimate with. I know this feeling very well. I sometimes jokingly have said that most of my life I've felt like and acted like a lone wolf. I wouldn't really bring people along with me, and I would easily and quickly leave them behind. I would push people away for so long, even back to when I graduated high school. I left before high school even ended. I went to take post-secondary classes at the college. It was something that they were offering without having to pay tuition. So I just left for my last couple years of high school and I didn't really stay in touch with anybody. And the pattern just continued. Now, in the past few years of my life, I actually reach out to people and new connections that I've made a lot more because I don't have as many of those long term deep connections that some people have from childhood or high school or college, where you've known each other for years and you've always stayed in touch. I really haven't had that experience. And a lot of this does come from different traumas that we've had. And this leads to dysregulation. And when we don't yet have the skills to regulate ourselves and manage our own mind, it let me stay in this place of hot and cold and living in these extremes. So someone would make a mistake, for example, and I would push them away in judgment. They were wrong. I knew what was right and wrong, and they were wrong in my mind. And later I'd regret it. And then when I was lonely and seeking that connection, there wasn't really anyone to turn to or to comfort me. And for a long time, I was honestly okay with that because I truly believed I could do it on my own. I didn't need anybody else. I thought that I could get farther without people in my way. I really thought that people just got in your way. And I had a pattern and a habit of just kind of leaving people behind and walking away without really thinking twice about it. And some people out there, and maybe you're listening to this and you are the total opposite, where goodbyes are difficult, or maybe you're off and on and you have had a different experience. Or maybe you're listening and you feel like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I've done too. Connections and relationships don't always come easily right away. And when we're dealing with our own insecurities and inner brain drama and things that we're dealing with from our past or tools we don't yet have or know. And then you match that with somebody else who has their own list of all of those things that they're dealing with. I mean, it's not always easy and it doesn't come with a blueprint. It doesn't come with this manual of here's exactly what you do, here's the exact answer, and here's how to, make it perfect and tie it up in a pretty bow. That's not realistic. That's not real life. And so, number one, if you are listening to this and you feel lonely right now, or you feel like loneliness has been present in your life, you are in the right place. And I'm here to talk to you about it. Number one, we need to address the significance of acknowledging and addressing what feelings we're having. So if loneliness is present, we need to acknowledge it first and recognize it, admit it, right? That's the first step always with anything. And then we can start to get curious about how loneliness or really any negative emotions or what we might call negative or that feels uncomfortable is always an opportunity for personal growth and improving ourselves. It's always an opportunity to learn. So, we'll talk a little bit about how it feels, how loneliness what that can feel like, how to break the cycle of isolation if that's where you're at, the importance of vulnerability and forgiveness, not just of others, but of ourselves too. And then how to turn that loneliness into self growth and how to learn from it and get better because of it. We'll first want to reflect on the deep inner feelings that we're having. So we'll recognize and say it out loud or recognize it in our journaling or our thought process that loneliness is what we're feeling and isolation is the action that we're taking. And whether we feel lonely because we isolated or we're now isolating even more because we felt lonely, this is where we start is in the awareness. And when we feel loneliness for a long time, we can push people away and really we have difficulty forming meaningful connections because we don't even know yet what that looks like or we don't have a lot of examples of how that feels because we've spent so much time thinking thoughts that have made us feel lonely. So for example, you might think everybody else is bad or you might think I'm bad. Like you might think about yourself that you are bad and maybe you don't deserve it. Or if you're thinking other people are bad, you might think that they're going to hurt you or something bad is going to happen. Maybe in your past experience, you've seen time and time again, you have the proven evidence that something bad will happen if you let people in, and therefore you isolate and the loneliness deepens. And how that feels is different for everybody. It might be a pit in your stomach. It might be a tingling sensation in your arms. It might be a sinking feeling. But just notice what that feels like in your body. Take time to sit with it. You might even pause the audio now if you're in a space where you can do this and just kind of notice and feel. Feel what is happening physically in your body. And it might not be as bad as we thought, but let's recognize it. Let's understand what's happening. And if you're practicing journaling and capturing your thoughts and cleaning out your brain, you might have an understanding of what's going on in your thoughts. So you might be able to pull a thought out and understand what really is causing these feelings of loneliness and my actions of isolation or pushing people away. And that's continued spiral of then thinking of judgments of other people and pushing them even more and isolating even more. And it becomes this continued self-fulfilling prophecy of people are bad, you push them away, and then you're alone again. And then something bad happens, and it just continues on of expecting the worst and getting the worst. And it worked for me for a while. I ran full speed and accomplished things that I wanted to accomplish. And yet, eventually, it caught up with me. It really did. I had to learn the hard way, and I'm still continuing to learn that the lack of human connection is actually bad for our health. I mean, not only affects our mental health and our overall quality of life, but our physical health can deteriorate and go in the wrong direction when we don't have meaningful connections with others. So, how do we break the cycle of isolation if that's what we're doing? If we're isolating and pushing people away and creating this bubble that we think makes us feel safer or that we do become safe, how do we break that? And how do we recognize that that bubble of quote unquote safety is actually made up? It's actually a false sense of safety because while we're hiding in the cave and thinking, okay, I'm not out there being eaten by tigers, we're actually starving to death. And I know that's a dramatic example, but it's one I turn to a lot anytime I'm facing fear is, do I want to stay in the cave and remain lonely and unfulfilled? Or do I want to go out and risk some things and risk feeling uncomfortable, risk humiliation? I mean, now we're not really being chased by tigers. Now it's fear of judgment. It's the feeling of overwhelm. It's the feeling of failure. This is all we're running from and hiding from. The feeling of disappointment of other people letting us down when in reality, the only person that can truly let us down is ourselves based on what we are deciding to think and focus on. When we've pushed people away or isolated and kept to ourselves for so long, it can feel really out of our comfort zone and feel really far out of the box to start reaching out to others when that's a new thing for us. Or maybe we've done it, but not that often or not sustained, like it wasn't long term. But when we do, here are some things to consider. We can start small. And I'll tell you, I've moved states numerous times in my life. So not only have I, you know, not had those long-term, childhood friendships that have been very deep and meaningful because of prior actions, but I've also moved numerous times. So I've had to start over with at least local connections many times. And a few of my most recent moves, I've utilized tools like websites or apps where you can find local events that, let's say you're into yoga and you can attend a yoga class and meet other people who are into the same thing as you. Maybe it's a writing class, maybe it's a music class, whatever you're interested in, or the type of people that you're wanting to connect with, you can go where they are. And the great thing about group events is that there's no commitment. You're not meeting a new person one to one where you are required to just talk to that one person. You actually have the great opportunity to read the room and figure out who might be interesting for you to talk to or might have similar interests where a potential long-term bond could be created. There are different apps out there where you can connect one to one with new people, whether it's for general friendship or a specific activity or sport. Let's say tennis or something that you're interested in. You might look for a partner to play that particular sport with, and then you can grow connections and bonds that way. And as you do this, it can feel difficult along the way, and we can acknowledge that as well and still move forward. For example, feeling vulnerable and actually allowing yourself to be in your vulnerability is a new feeling. If you've isolated and kept to yourself for a long time, but being able to open yourself to failure, to rejection, to friendships that won't work out or connections that are not for you, it actually allows you to grow because of it. And I can tell you, when I moved to Colorado, I opened myself way up. And I am not an extrovert, but anyone seeing me during that chapter would have thought, wow, she is so extroverted because I was willing to put on my extroverted face or mask, which it's not a fake mask, but it's I can take on the attributes of my extroverted parts of myself in order to go out and create group activities of my own through certain apps and softwares out there where you can meet new people. And I would create events and plan parties, and it allowed me, again, the group piece of it is so great because you can pick who's for you versus having the pressure to connect with one particular person. And not only that, but you're helping other people connect with each other too, because there were friendships in those groups that I put together that they're now great friends. And some of them were not a fit for me. And we don't have to wait until something terrible goes wrong. We can admit to ourselves that, hey, this actually isn't a good fit for me, but I appreciate your time and I wish you the best, right? Because when we're so clear on our bigger goals, we know who fits into that and who doesn't. I mean, if you think you don't know, ask yourself again, because you might know underneath that. And have self compassion for yourself because it's not easy. And when anytime we are implementing something new, it can feel difficult and we might take a few steps forward and a couple steps back, and that's okay. So be kind to yourself as you figure out and navigate who you want in your life, what you want that to look like, and forgive. Learn to forgive others because nobody is going to be perfect. And I can tell you, as a one on the Enneagram, AKA perfectionist, AKA reformer, I really have a tendency to want things to be perfect and I want people to be perfect. And when they don't fit in my box and my ideal of what I think they should be, it creates a disruption in my brain. But we are in control of how we handle that. So forgive other people. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to be messy just like we are. We don't like to admit it, but we are also messy and we also deserve forgiveness. So, whether you have connections, but you want more meaningful connections, or you're feeling completely alone and isolated, even if it's been years, you have the opportunity now to get out there, be vulnerable, and create and nurture some meaningful relationships. And also nurture the relationship with ourselves at the same time. We'll take a deeper look at vulnerability and forgiveness and how to really embrace that. It's so important to recognize the value of really being open and vulnerable as we create new connections. And we want them to be real and meaningful. There is so much out there that is fake and curated and edited and AI generated that people are hungrier than ever for real and authentic. And that word authentic gets thrown around a lot, but there's a reason. People want it, they need it, they resonate with that. So, as scary as it can feel, actually being real, but also compassionate. So, you don't want to go out and just say it like it is and, hurt people's feelings or, go out and intentionally bring people down. You also want to be compassionate and considerate and be intentional about what we're saying and how we're acting. But it really is important to be real. And forgiveness is also so important because our ability to heal our past wounds and allow space for new connections to flourish is required in order to make those meaningful connections. We can't move forward with the past hanging onto us and dragging onto behind us because it's just going to hold us back and we're not able to go as far when we're looking backwards. Someone said this so great to me once, and she said that we can't spend all of our time driving a vehicle looking in the rearview mirror, or we will lose control of the car. But we also can't spend all of our time looking at the map. That's looking forward because we'll also lose control of the car. We have to balance where we're looking. Yes, look behind, be aware of what there is there, what we've been through, how we can process that and heal and move forward. Look at the map and look where you want to go, but also look at the road and be present where you are now with the people you're with now. That's what matters. I know over time, as I started to let people into years later now, where I'm at, I'm much better at it. So, again, the self compassion piece is really important to be kind and gentle with yourself as you learn how to have more meaningful relationships with others and with yourself that do feel more fulfilling versus feeling lonely or empty or meaningless. So, how do we turn our loneliness into self growth? How do we make this an opportunity for ourselves? First of all, we slow down and explore what's going on in our mind. We recognize, why am I lonely? We do that thought download and pull the thoughts out that are causing that. We look back at our past actions. What maybe have we done that's made this worse? And what have we done that's made it better? So looking at both sides of it, there's never all good or all bad. So being able to reflect back on, what have I done that's been good, that's produced results I like and I feel good about. And keep track of those because we want to do more of that. And what hasn't worked? Isolating, pushing people away, a strong sense of judgment, I'm guessing those haven't worked. And so, or even having shallow relationships or living in a space of drama and gossip and bonding over those things make for a less meaningful and fulfilling relationship that we end up not feeling that great about. And sometimes we don't even realize why. And as we dissect our own feeling of loneliness, the idea of self soothing is a powerful tool for coping with this and cultivating our own inner peace. We can co-regulate with others when it's in a healthy way, but we also must be okay with ourselves and by ourselves. We cannot have one or the other on their own. We actually need both, and it's human nature. We survive from connection. Humans have survived because of their connections with others, and our ability to be a part of a tribe. So, some things you can journal about or take some time to reflect on. Maybe you go for a thinking walk or a have a journaling session with yourself to start working on some self-compassion and nurturing that emotional side of you during times of loneliness. First, focus on what is in your control. So think of all your controllables, your actions, your thoughts, all of these things that you do have a say in how they turn out. We can't control others, we can't control our environment. That is just the way it is. We can influence, but we cannot control. And so, really focus on okay, what can I actually do? What do I have a say over? Think about what you can process on your own, who you can reach out to. Take time to think about what you can process on your own, and then also who you can reach out to problem solve with safely. Not everybody is this person. And it's really important to recognize in life that everybody has different roles in our life. We cannot expect one person to do everything for us. There will be the friend you can cry to, and there will be the friend that's there to kind of get you up into shape and tell you how it really is. And that's not always the person you need when you just need to sit in sadness for a minute or you aren't quite ready for a solution, right? So you have to understand the role each person plays. So think about who it really is safe to reach out to and problem solve with. You want to be careful here too when you're talking to other people about something you're going through or a problem that you're having, because talking about the problem can actually dysregulate us more. So it can kind of rev us back up into a place of discomfort and going back to reliving that problem versus problem solving. So make sure that it's growth oriented and problem solving focused. So, we covered the importance of acknowledging and addressing the feelings of loneliness, uncovering the reasons why, the root cause, to get to the bottom of where we can start taking action for solutions that last. So, let's brace our own vulnerability, forgive, because we're all only human after all, and self soothe, because this is how we'll continue to have meaningful connections with ourselves and others around us. And when we're regulated, we can show up so much better for the world and for the people in our lives. Loneliness is not a stop sign, it is not something to hold you back. You can navigate this and you can cultivate authentic, meaningful connections. Thank you for braving the inside of your mind with me. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we understand the world. And as our awareness grows, life just gets better and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review and share this with anyone else you think could benefit from listening. A quick reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, and the discussions here are not a substitute for professional advice. If you're dealing with a specific issue or need personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified professional. Your well-being is important, and this podcast is simply a platform for sharing insights and experiences. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time.